After one of the best seasons in 2022, Sergio Perez has his hopes set high for the 2023 season, even going as far as posting a tweet in which the Red Bull stalwart outlined his goals of possibly becoming the 2023 F1 World Champion after a dominant victory in Saudi Arabia. Even though the tweet was quickly deleted and replaced, it's clear that teammate and two-time world champion Max Verstappen did not seem to like it. Moving on to the Australian Grand Prix, Perez came in with high hopes to have another stunning performance, but thanks to what Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said was an engine braking issue, the Mexican driver found himself in the gravel trap of Turn 3, failing to log a time during qualifying. As per the F1 regulations, Perez was still cleared to race and was set to start from the back of the grid, despite not setting a time within 107% of the leading time, which is in the regulations. This allowed Red Bull to fit a raft of new components, including a new energy store and control electronics unit, which forced the Mexican to start from the pit lane due to breaking Parc Ferme regulations. The Australian Grand Prix was one of the most controversial races of the year so far, with 3 red flags, including one that forced the race to end under the safety car. A little bit of luck heavily favoured the Mexican, allowing him to only drop 14 points to teammate Max Verstappen, the eventual winner, and keeping the title hopes alive. His start from the pit lane and finishing position of 5th allowed the Mexican driver to claim the Driver of the Day title, and he also added the fastest lap for an extra point during the race, albeit thanks to a controversial and debated penalty for the Spanish driver Carlos Sainz on the final lap of the race. While most of the action focused on the front of the race, with the 2 Mercedes drivers, Russell and Hamilton, both jumping Verstappen from the start, the Dutch driver simply had more pace and performance and easily made his way back into the lead before pulling out an 11-second lead to Hamilton running in 2nd position. This didn't faze Checo as he slowly made his way through the field, exploiting the 4 DRS zones in which the Red Bull RB19 has an advantage over many of its rivals. Whilst the first red flag didn't have any significant impact on Perez, the second restart proved to be tricky for the Mexican. Due to the pile-up and Sainz tagging fellow countryman Alonso, Perez had to take some avoiding action and ran off at Turn 1, which dropped him out of the points-paying positions. Fortunately, the positions were reset due to a red flag being called before the first time check, and this allowed him to keep his competitive finish. But is the Perez-Red Bull relationship deteriorating? In what set the tone for the 2023 F1 season, the first race in Bahrain proved to be exactly what Red Bull was aiming for. Taking home a comfortable 1-2 finish, many believed that the season would continue with Red Bull taking the top honors without any challenge. However, no one expected that Mexican to have title aspirations next to teammate Max Verstappen. Taking his 5th win of the season during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix after Max Verstappen crashed out during qualifying, tensions started to build. The Mexican drove a stunning race, controlling every aspect and eventually taking the fastest lap, which would have seen him lead the championship for the first time by 1 point. However, teammate Verstappen defied team orders and snatched the fastest lap on the final lap. After confirming that he'd had the fastest lap from race engineer Hugh Bird, the Mexican was notably perplexed after the race, after learning that his teammate had snatched the fastest lap and thought that both were given the same orders to target a specific time, especially since Max was nurturing a driveshaft issue. Thanks to the win and now being a winner on every street circuit in Formula 1, the Mexican made it clear that he had higher ambitions than finishing 2nd in the championship, stating in a post-race press conference that he was not allowed to push in the end. A clearly frustrated Perez took to social media and made claims of wanting to become champion, which infuriated teammate Verstappen before taking it down and changing it to state that he was happy for the team. But what lies ahead for the Mexican, and is he done with Red Bull? With Perez still being contracted with Red Bull until the end of 2024, it's unclear whether we'll see a Rosberg-Hamilton repeat from the 2016 season. Sergio's clearly a competent and extremely fast driver, but lacks some consistency when compared to teammate Max Verstappen. In terms of who's the fastest driver, it seems like Max Verstappen can simply go into a different gear and pull away from his own teammate by 10 seconds and certain races. However, this doesn't mean that Perez should roll over and accept the fact that he'll always play the second fiddle. For now, the Mexican driver is still the best pick for Red Bull, even with Daniel Ricciardo waiting in the wings to swoop in and steal the spotlight. However, Sergio has to choose one of the following 2 paths, which will dictate the way he's remembered by history. Perez can choose to go the route of either Rubens Barrichello and Valtteri Bottas, or he can choose the routes of Mark Webber and Nico Rosberg. Whilst Barrichello and Bottas were excellent drivers in their own right, they simply fell in line and focused more on helping their teammates achieve their goals. These two drivers were highly celebrated, but they never attained the successes of their teammates. On the other hand, Webber was a more aggressive and outspoken driver, but sadly did not have enough to beat the more impressive Sebastian Vettel. Finally, Checo can choose to take the path of Rosberg, one of the fiercest drivers, challenging his teammate and often defying team orders in an attempt to win the championship. Reluctantly, the German managed to beat Lewis and claim his maiden world championship. The most important thing for Checo to focus on would be for him to improve certain aspects of his driving. Whilst he's slowly becoming more consistent through the 2022 season, there are still a few things that the Mexican could improve on. The punchy and forthright attitude presented at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix needs to become more embedded in the driver. He should also focus more on improving his race starts, after losing a place off the line during the first two races of the 2023 F1 season. It is clear that team principal Christian Horner is not biased as many people might think, and he often loves to say, "Let them race." However, Checo will need to prove to the team principal that when given the chance to race, he can back that up consistently after each weekend. The stunning win during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and coming back during the Australian Grand Prix proved that Checo is certainly making these minor improvements. It's unclear whether the Red Bull management would allow the two drivers to race during this early part of the season, and with other teams to catch up to Red Bull during the latter parts of the season thanks to their wind tunnel penalties. Red Bull needs to bag as many points now as possible. The next few races would be of the utmost importance for the Mexican driver, in which both his performances on the track and how he manages positions within the team would define the way forward. Checo should voice his opinion when asked, but focus more on showing his skills on the track, which would dictate the way he will be remembered when he eventually calls time on his long F1 career. How do you think this would play out for the rest of the season, and do you think that Red Bull should let them race instead of using team orders? Let me know in the comments section, and make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel for all your F1 content.